Welcome to the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Ever feel like you're stuck in a meeting time warp? You know, agenda's gone astray, that one person who always seems to hijack the conversation.
Yeah.
Well, get ready to break free because today we're diving into Liberating Structures.
Oh, yeah.
A collection of 33 alternative ways to run meetings and work sessions.
These aren't just your average tips and tricks, though.
Right.
Liberating structures are designed to fundamentally shift how a meeting works. You know, unlock participation and innovation that traditional approaches often stifle.
Okay, so less death by PowerPoint and more everyone gets a voice.
Exactly.
I'm intrigued. But 33 structures.
Yeah.
That sounds a little overwhelming.
I can see that, but that's where our deep dive comes in. Today, we're focusing on one specific liberating structure, design storyboards.
Okay.
Think of it as a blueprint for crafting meetings that actually achieve their goals and keep everyone engaged.
So no more of those, what are we even doing here? Meetings where you leave feeling like you just wasted an hour of your life.
Exactly. Design storyboards help you avoid those pitfalls by addressing the root causes of meeting misery, unclear purposes, wasted time, limited participation, you name it.
Yeah.
They force you to be intentional about every aspect of the meeting, from the people involved to the physical space to the activities you'll do.
That makes sense, but how does this storyboarding thing actually work?
It's all about mapping out your meeting visually, kind of like a comic strip.
Oh.
Each frame in the storyboard represents a different step in the meeting, with clear instructions on how participants will interact to achieve a specific goal.
So it's like creating a roadmap for the meeting, but with pictures instead of just words.
Exactly. And it helps everyone understand what's going to happen and how they can contribute. And you can use it for both single meetings or even complex projects, which we'll get into a bit later.
Yeah.
But first, there are 5 key elements, or min specs as they're called, that every good design storyboard should address.
Min specs, huh? Lay it on me.
Okay, first up is the structuring invitation. Think of this as setting the stage for collaboration. It's all about getting the right people involved in the planning process so the meeting design truly reflects the needs of the group.
Makes sense. You can't design a good meeting in a vacuum.
Right.
Yeah.
Then we've got space and materials. This min spec is all about the practicalities, the physical setup, tools, and technology you need to support the structure.
Got it.
Do you need a whiteboard, sticky notes, markers, or how about a specific virtual platform?
It's like those cooking shows where they have all the ingredients prepped and measured. You don't want to be scrambling for a whiteboard marker in the middle of a brainstorming session.
Right. Next up is participation. Design storyboards are all about ensuring everyone has an equal opportunity to contribute.
Okay.
No more meetings where the loudest voice dominates or half the team sits there silently checking their email.
I've definitely been in those meetings, and it's not fun.
Yeah.
So how do design storyboards actually encourage participation?
It's baked into the structure. Many of the liberating structures involve specific activities or group configurations that level the playing field and ensure everyone's voice is heard.
Okay, so it's not just about being polite and saying, everyone share your thoughts. It's about actively structuring the meeting to make participation happen. I like it. What's next?
Group configurations,
Right.
which sounds a bit technical, but it's really just about deciding how people will be grouped and interact throughout the meeting.
Right.
Will you work in pairs, small groups, or as a whole group?
So it's about being strategic with those interactions to get the most out of everyone's input.
Yeah.
Makes sense. What's the last min spec?
Sequence of steps and time allocation. This one's all about providing a clear timeline for the meeting, outlining what activities will happen and how long each will take.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all comes together. It's like a recipe for a productive and engaging meeting. But let's get into the nitty-gritty.
All right.
Can you walk me through how to actually create one of these design storyboards?
Absolutely. First things first, you need to clarify the purpose of your meeting.
Okay.
And, I mean, really clarify it.
So it's about getting beyond those vague agenda items.
Yeah.
And digging into the real why behind the meeting. Like, what problem are we actually trying to solve here?
Exactly. And there's actually another liberating structure that can be helpful here called 9 whys.
Okay.
It's a technique where you repeatedly ask why to peel back the layers and uncover the root cause of an issue.
9 whys. That sounds like a therapy session for meetings.
Kind of.
Yeah.
But it's really effective for getting to the heart of the matter, once you've nailed down the purpose.
Right.
The next step is to assess your usual approach.
Okay. Yeah.
Imagine you ran this meeting the way you normally do.
Uh-huh.
What would likely work well and what would probably fall short.
Got it.
It's about being honest about the shortcomings of your current meeting habits.
It's like a meeting reality check.
Exactly. And this reality check might lead you to adjust the purpose or realize you need to involve different people. It's an iterative process.
So you're constantly revisiting and refining the purpose and the participants based on what you learn.
Yeah.
Interesting. What happens next?
Now for the fun part, brainstorming alternative structures.
Right.
Think about all the tools in your meeting tool. Prillbox, brainstorming techniques, decision-making frameworks, feedback methods.
Yeah.
This is where those 33 liberating structures really come into play.
Okay.
You get to explore the possibilities and see which ones might help you achieve your purpose in a more engaging and effective way.
So you're not just stuck with the same old meeting formats.
Nope.
You can get creative and experiment with new approaches. I like it.
Exactly. The next step is to select the best structure or combination of structures for each step of the meeting.
Okay.
And it's a good idea to have a backup structure in mind,
Right.
just in case things go off track.
Always good to have a plan B, especially when it comes to meetings.
Right.
Once you've chosen your structures, what's next?
Time for logistics. Assign roles, figure out what materials you need, and decide where you'll meet. It's about setting the stage for a smooth and successful meeting.
Like prepping the stage for a great performance.
Yeah.
But instead of a play, it's a super productive meeting.
Exactly. And the final step is to plan for evaluation.
Okay.
How will you know if the design worked? What questions will you ask to assess its effectiveness?
So it's not just a one and done thing. You're building in a feedback loop to continuously improve your meeting design. I'm really liking this design storyboard concept, but we've been focusing on individual meetings.
Right.
You mentioned earlier that design storyboards can also be used for larger scale projects. How does that work?
That's where advanced design storyboards come in. They build on the same principles, but are designed to tackle those big, ambitious initiatives.
Yeah.
Transformations, complex projects, you name it.
So instead of storyboarding a single meeting, you're storyboarding an entire project.
Exactly. Think of it like breaking down a giant puzzle into smaller, more manageable pieces. Each piece gets its own mini storyboard, but they all fit together to create the bigger picture.
Okay, I'm visualizing this giant storyboard wall with all these interconnected mini storyboards. Sounds kind of epic, actually. But let's break it down. What are the steps involved in creating an advanced design storyboard?
Well, first, you need to assemble a design team, and this is crucial. You want representation from all the key stakeholders involved in the project. And keep in mind, this team might evolve as the project progresses.
So it's not just a static group. You're constantly reassessing who needs to be at the table based on the evolving needs of the project.
Exactly. Then, just like with the basic storyboard, you start by clarifying the overall purpose of the initiative.
Okay.
What are you ultimately trying to achieve with this project? This is where 9 whys can come in handy again.
So you're establishing that shared understanding of the big picture why right from the start. What happens next?
This is where it gets really interesting. You need to deeply understand the current reality. What's actually happening right now with the process, product, or service you're trying to improve.
So you're taking a hard look at the current state of affairs. No sugarcoating allowed.
Right. And there's a liberating structure called simple ethnography that can be really helpful here.
Okay.
It involves actually observing people interacting with the current system,
Got it.
understanding their pain points, frustrations, and unmet needs.
Huh. So you're not just relying on assumptions.
Right.
You're gathering real-world data and insights. It's about empathy, right?
Right.
Putting yourself in the shoes of the people who will be affected by this project.
Exactly. Once you have a clear picture of the current experience,
Uh-huh.
you assess how well it's meeting the stated purpose.
Okay.
Where does it succeed and where does it fall short?
So it's about being objective and data-driven. Where are the gaps? What's working and what isn't?
Right. And this assessment might lead you to revisit and refine the overall purpose of the initiative. You might also realize that you need to bring in additional people to the design team, either as core members or as advisors.
So just like with the purpose, the team composition is constantly being evaluated and adjusted. It's about being flexible and responsive to what you're learning along the way.
Exactly. And then, similar to the basic storyboard,
Yeah.
you start brainstorming alternative structures that could help you achieve your goals. But instead of planning a single meeting,
Right.
you're outlining the key steps or phases that will make up the entire initiative.
Okay, so you're breaking down this big, complex project into a series of smaller, more digestible chunks.
Precisely. And each chunk gets its own design storyboard. You determine the purpose of that step, select the best liberating structure to achieve it, and plan for logistics and evaluation.
It's like a fractal structure, storyboards within storyboards.
I'm really starting to grasp the power of this for managing complexity.
Mm.
What happens once you've got all these mini storyboards in place?
And the real work begins.
As you start implementing the project, you test and refine each step along the way. You might even test different versions of a step in different settings to see what works best.
So it's about being iterative and adaptable. You're not locked into a rigid plan. You're constantly learning and adjusting course based on what you discover.
Exactly. And as you implement each step, you evaluate its effectiveness and use those insights to refine the design of the next step.
So it's a continuous cycle of design, implementation, and evaluation. You're baking in continuous improvement from the very beginning.
Right. And that's how advanced design storyboards can help teams achieve truly remarkable outcomes,
Yeah.
even on the most complex projects.
This all sounds incredibly effective, but I'm a sucker for real-world examples.
Oh, yeah?
Have you come across any stories about how design storyboards have been used successfully?
Absolutely. One great example comes from the tech world. A software company was struggling with their product development process.
Right.
Things were moving too slowly, there were too many bottlenecks, and teams weren't communicating effectively. They decided to use design storyboards to revamp their entire workflow.
So they basically storyboarded their entire product development process.
Yeah,
That's ambitious.
it was, but the results were incredible.
Okay.
By breaking down the process into smaller, more manageable steps and using liberating structures to facilitate collaboration at each stage,
Yeah.
they were able to significantly reduce development time, improve communication, and increase overall team morale.
So design storyboards help them streamline their process, improve collaboration, and boost morale. That's a trifecta. Any other examples?
Another one that comes to mind involves a healthcare organization that was trying to improve patient care.
Okay.
They used design storyboards to redesign their discharge planning process,
Right.
which is often a very stressful and confusing time for patients.
That's a great example of using design storyboards to tackle a real human-centered challenge.
Yeah.
What kind of impact did it have?
The results were really positive. By involving patients, nurses, doctors, and social workers in the design process, they were able to create a much smoother and more supportive discharge experience.
Right.
Patients felt more informed and prepared to go home,
Got it.
and there were fewer readmissions to the hospital.
That's a powerful example of how design storyboards can be used to improve people's lives, not just business outcomes.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we've covered a lot of ground here, but before we wrap up,
Right.
can we recap the main benefits of using design storyboards? So to recap, more engagement, clear purpose, greater efficiency, and a boost in creativity. It's like design storyboards are the ultimate meeting makeover tool. But what does this all mean for our listener out there? How can they start using design storyboards to improve the meetings they're involved in?
Well, it's all about taking that first step, even if it's just for a small team meeting. Start by asking yourself, what's the real purpose of this meeting? Who needs to be involved? And how can we structure the conversation to ensure everyone contributes and we achieve our goals?
So it's about being more intentional and thoughtful about how you approach meetings, even those seemingly routine ones. Don't just settle for the same old boring format.
Exactly. And remember those min specs we discussed earlier. Think about the space, the materials, how you'll encourage participation, and how you'll structure the flow of the conversation. Even sketching out a simple storyboard on a whiteboard can make a huge difference.
It's like having a little cheat sheet for a better meeting.
Right.
And what if someone's feeling a little intimidated by the idea of using liberating structures? It can feel like a whole new language to learn.
Yeah, I hear you. But the good news is there are tons of resources available to help you get started. The Liberating Structures website is a goldmine of information. You can find detailed instructions for all 32 structures, examples, videos, you name it, and they even have a user-friendly app that you can use to guide you through the process.
Oh, that's handy. We'll be sure to include a link to that in the show notes, so there's really no excuse not to give it a try.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to master all 33 structures overnight. Just start with one that resonates with you and experiment. See how it changes the dynamics of your meetings.
It's about finding what works for you and your team. And who knows, you might even start to enjoy meetings again.
Wouldn't that be something? But in all seriousness, design storyboards and liberating structures have the power to transform how we work together. They can help us unlock our collective potential and achieve remarkable things.
It's like upgrading your meeting operating system from that clunky old version to something sleek, efficient, and collaborative.
I like that analogy. It's about moving from those soul-crushing meetings to something that's energizing, engaging, and productive.
So to our listener out there, if you're tired of those same old meetings, if you're craving more engagement, creativity, and impact, then give Design Storyboards a try. You might be surprised by the results.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep liberating those meetings.
See you next time on the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Until next time.
See you then.